So yeah, welcome to the DSLC Project Club. Today, Umair is going to talk to us about his experiments with Elmer and Hitter 2. And with that, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, John. Hello, everyone. My name is Umair Durrani, and today I'm going to discuss with you my experimental packages that I've made with ellmer, which is a way to interface with LLMs through R, and Hitter2, which is also used to interface with different APIs. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is brand YAML file, which is used for branding purposes, and how I'm generating the brand YAML file using ellmer, and then also generating ggplot2 stuff, for example, scales and themes from the brand YAML file that is generated. So first of all, what is brand YAML? Brand YAML takes in the user input to create branding guidelines. And based on those branding guidelines, those can be applied to Quarto documents or in Python and our Shiny apps. And if you look at the website for brand YAML, here we see the general structure of the file, and there are four main components: meta, logo, color, and typography. So meta includes information about your brand, for example, name and any links to the websites, GitHub, and so on. And then the logo section includes multiple links to either online or your images for logos on disk. Furthermore, there is a color section that has two main sections. There is palette that includes named colors, and then there's foreground, background, and other semantic colors within this color section. And there you can refer back to the palette colors. For example, here, the black color is specified, and then black is used here for foreground. Then there is typography, where you provide font information. These fonts can come from multiple sources. For example, they could be on your disk, where you provide the source as the link to or path to your file on disk. And they could also come from Google, or there's another site called Bunny that also has fonts, but those are GDPR friendly. So you can use Google Fonts from that site without worrying about GDPR. And there could also be another section after typography, which includes some default options. For example, if you are using any bootstrap variables, you can specify that in the brand YAML file as well. So this is generally something that you need to write. And this could be as detailed as you want. If we go to the article section of the brand YAML file, it shows you how to use LLMs to prompt them to create the brand YAML file. So we'll look at that in a moment. Before that, let's see a quick demo of using brand YAML on a Shiny app and a Quarto document. So here's a Quarto document. I think my RStudio is visible to you, right? Okay, great.
Oops, sorry.
Um, so this is just the boilerplate of a Quarto document, and I'm going to click render. And here we see the default document, the template that Quarto uses. Now I have this brand YAML file. The extension should be YML, so I'm going to rename it and re-render the brand QMD file. So now you can see that right away we see the font color change, and that's because the font color is specified in that brand YAML file. So if we go to the color section, we see that there's white, dark blue, and this dark blue is specified as a foreground color. And that's why that blue color is shown here. Now let's see the same brand YAML file applied to the Shiny app. To restart my session. See if the background is still white, so it should show up as white. Yeah. So this is the same YAML file that is showing that blue foreground color. If I rerun it, but this time without the YAML file, now you see that blue color is gone. So with a single file, you can apply the brand colors, logos, and anything else. We didn't use logo in this case because this logo file does not exist in the directory. But if you do have a logo file, this will be applied to wherever you specify the logo should go. Similarly, in the typography, it is using Martel Sans, and I'm not sure if it changed the font or not, but if you specify the source of the font correctly, it would use it. So that's the utility of using a brand YAML file. Providing the guidelines in a single file would apply it to multiple documents. So this article on the brand YAML site shows you how to prompt an LLM to generate a brand YAML file for you. So if I open this, this has all the details about what a brand YAML file is. So I took this and then I provided this in the inst folder of the R package for my Shiny app. And let's see the Shiny app first. So here's the app. I'm currently using the Google Gemini model for generating the text, essentially generating this YAML file. And it requires an API key. If you click on this link, you can create one. I'm running this locally right now, so I don't need to provide it here. It's already in my R environment file. And here you can browse and upload screenshots of company branding. I have the screenshots for Walmart. This one contains information about colors, then logos, and then font. So if we go back and browse for these screenshots, so here I have provided all the details using screenshots, and I can just say Walmart, and it should generate a brand YAML file for us. If you don't have screenshots, or you have screenshots, but you also want to provide more information, you can still type that in the chat window. And so here we see a brand YAML file is generated. By the way, you see this, and it seems that the response of the chat is not yet completed, and it's a bug in the latest version of ellmer. Otherwise, it should not show it like this. It should actually show the same text response in the chat as well. But this is editable in the app, so I can change any color here if I want. And once I'm satisfied with the brand YAML file, if I click on this button, it should then generate ggplot color palette and then scales based on the colors that are provided inside the brand YAML file. So I have prompted it to create 4 palettes, one for qualitative or categorical data, one for diverging palette, and 3 sequential palettes. And here is a preview of those palettes. So we see we have individual hues for qualitative palette, then for sequential, this is what we expect, the same hue, but they're different brightness. And for diverging, we have this one probably could be improved, but this is a good starting point where we have 2 diverging color palettes combined into one. And if we go to the color scale section, here we see the code for the scale. And in this iteration, it chose to use this dark blue background color, which I won't like personally, but it would give you some ideas of what to do in the code. Or you can go back and then regenerate the file. So it helps you iterate faster. So we see the sequential palette, it's used multiple times here, sequential 1, 2, and then 3. The background color is actually hiding the point colors here. And here we see the diverging palette. And if we now go to the fill scale, here we see the bar plot using the same color palette. The background is actually hiding a lot of information. Let me quickly regenerate it. No, the bug is not allowing me to add another comment here. But you get the idea of how to iterate over this palette, and you can actually go back, change the background color here. Do not use that background. So this could be a white color. I actually change it. And change this to wait. Yeah, this is better. So I've added some visualizations that help you see the result of those scales. So if we look at one of the visualization code, we see that I'm using scale fill brand here, which is not a default function in ggplot2. And here I'm providing palette equals sequential 1 and brand palette equals whatever the palette was generated from brand YAML file. And if we download these palettes, and let me try opening this in the browser. So this is what we get as a result. We have the brand palettes, and we have a function created for us, scale color brand, similarly, scale fill brand, the color list, and a theme. So all of these are applied in the example that I've shown here. And so you can use this in your workflow if you prefer using these palettes and scales and themes. So let's quickly see how I am prompting the LLM to generate the brand YAML file. So this is the global.r file under the create branding directory for this Shiny app. And here I provide some background information about the scales. So this is qualitative scale, sequential scale, diverging, and then there is a system prompt for the palettes. And so I provide here information about what these scales are. And in the system prompt, I provide information about what the LLM is supposed to do. In this case, to make data visualization, the color palettes for data visualization using these scales. Now in ellmer, there is a way to create structured output instead of just raw markdown or text. And for that, you need to specify what should be the type of the response object. So in this case, because I want the palettes, and those palettes are shown here, I want this list. And I want to have these 5 components of this list. So I ask it to generate that by providing information about the type of object, which in this case is type object. And then for each of the palettes, I tell it to create an array, and the item should be a string. So this is the main object, the list object, and then this is an array. We know this is a vector in R, and each of the elements here is a string. And so based on that, I then ask the LLM to generate right here in the module create brand YAML. I ask it to generate this palette, the brand YAML for me first, and then the palette. So in this case, I am creating the chat Google Gemini object where I provide the system prompt and the API key. And then I also provide the images. As you saw before, I uploaded screenshots. And based on those screenshots, I then provide input chat user input in the observe event. And as long as this chat, the user input is provided, it's going to take in that information from the chat object and then append to it the image contents if a screenshot is uploaded. If no screenshots are uploaded, it would just simply asynchronously respond with the chat input. So this is in brief how I'm prompting the LLM and how I'm getting the responses. So this was about creating brand YAML file and ggplot2 goodies from LLM. The second topic for today is creating, illustrating, and narrating fictional stories, again, using LLMs. In this case, I'm using both ellmer and hitter2. So a story has multiple parts. In this case, you need to first generate a story. Once you get the text, you need to generate prompts for the story, for the images, sorry, and then provide those prompts to the model that generates the images, and then also converts the story text to speech. So there are different components that I wrote functions for. So this first one is generating a story prompt. This is a system prompt for the LLM that is going to generate the story text. And so I provide it with very specific instructions. I tell it whatever genre of the story and the structure of the story I'm providing you, you need to generate a story based on that, as well as considering the number of paragraphs that I'm providing here. And then I also provided instructions on what not to do. For example, do not include any introduction or explanation or any other comments. All I want is an array of paragraphs, and the paragraphs should be equal to whatever I specify. Now, in the generate story function, I take in the user prompt. This could be something like, tell me a story about Harry Potter. And then number of paragraphs are specified here. Then I provide the genre and the structure of the story. So the structure of story, I did a bit of research, understanding what are the different types of story structures. So those are specified here. And then this is the interesting part with ellmer because this is very easy to switch between different providers. So here I'm using the Google Gemini as the chat function. But you can use any other provider like OpenAI or Anthropic or OpenRouter, whatever you want, as long as you have the API key for that provider. And then further, you need to provide the model from that provider. Next, this is where I use that system prompt that I showed on the previous slide. And here I'm using the chat function, providing system prompt. generated above and the model. And then again, I want to create structured chat. I want to get the output as the same number of paragraphs as I specify. I don't want it to create like 8 paragraphs if I want only 5. So again, I use type array here from ellmer, and I tell it to return exactly these number of paragraphs. And I further tell it that each array element is a paragraph of the story. So do not return anything else, just a story. So running this then generates a story. So in this case, I provide a user prompt, tell me a story about an R programmer who visits the Palmer Penguin Islands. And then here I'm showing you an example. Instead of using Google Gemini, you can specify another chat function and an appropriate model from that provider. The next step here is once you have the story, you want to generate images for each paragraph. And for illustrating the stories, you want the consistent descriptions in each of the story parts. You don't want your main character to look different from one image to another. So you need to provide descriptions which are appropriate. So I start here for a system prompt where I tell it to write detailed prompts for generating images, and whatever prompts are generated by the LLM, these will be provided to the Stable Diffusion model for creating images. So I ask it to do that. And I also ask it to be consistent between one paragraph to another paragraph in terms of subject and object descriptions, what they're doing, and so on. And then I provide it with one example. I believe this is called as one-shot prompting, where I provide it with information on what a story text could potentially look like and what the description that you generate should look like. So for this example story text, the character description is consistent. So if a character is called Lily, then for her, she has long curly brown hair, and this is consistent for each paragraph of the story. We can add other descriptions if the scene is different, but the character description should be the same. And then I explain a few more details here. For example, do not generate more descriptions than the story text. So if there are 5 paragraphs of the story, then there should be 5 paragraphs of the descriptions. And this is how we use it. We just provide the story text. If this is a 5-element vector, then it will generate 5-element vector as a result. And for generating the images, I have this function called format image prompts. This is not very important for our discussion here, but I quickly want to show that I figure out what is the best way to use consistent prompts for images so that for each paragraph, you get the same type of style. So if you are using anime as a style, then what should be a prompt? And for images, there's also a negative prompt. For example, there should be no deformity like 6 fingers or broken legs. So we don't want that in the images. And here's the generate images function that takes in different styles. So here you can see all types of style that you can use for generating images. And then I format the image prompts using those styles. And then here I'm using header2 for generating a request for a single image. So the rec single image function is not shown here, but you can see that in the repository for the storytelling package they'll share at the end. And once it is created, I want all the images at not taking very long to generate. So I use the rec perform parallel, and I put on error continue. So for out of 5 images, for example, if it is failing in one image, don't fail in others. Just get me all the outputs. Finally, I then apply get raw image function that will process it and make it as a base 64 encoded image. So here's how I'm using the image. And then there's also a generate audio function. So I'm skipping the details for that. It's also using header 2 and then interfacing with either Google using Gemini models or sorry, just the Google Gemini text-to-speech model or the Cloudflare Mallets model for generating the audio. So it's essentially speech to text. Sorry, text to speech. And then finally, I have this create slides function that uses Quarto to create a slide deck with Reveal.js, combining all of that. So here we can provide it with all of those things that we generated above, story, images, audio, and then you can optionally provide a title, the theme of the Reveal.js slide deck, and above it, you can see I have a template that is first generated, a QMD file. So I provide the path to it where I want to generate it. And here's an example of the result that we saw before. So that's the title that you see here. If I go to the next, do you hear the audio? You probably don't hear it, but if you launch this at your end, on each slide, you see the animations as well as the audio runs, which is essentially reading this. So yeah, and this is the final slide for 3-image story. So this was everything that I wanted to discuss. Any questions?
I
So
couldn't get to
for
my mute button. Go ahead, Derek.
so for making these stories, did you run into any issues about how long each paragraph could be, context windows and such?
Definitely. For Google Gemini, the context window is pretty big, and it also has a lot of tokens that it allows you to generate. So generally for Google Gemini, it's okay if I generate like 10, 15 paragraphs. But for other models, they have less number of tokens that they allow. So there we have some limits. For images, if I try to generate a lot of images in parallel, then it complains. So like 5 to 8 images are okay, but more than 8, it sometimes complains. For audio, with Google text-to-speech, it definitely complains. With the free tier, it won't allow more than 3 audio files. But yeah, if you pay for it, I think the limit is 15.
It's very cool. I have used LLMs a lot, kind of before they were all the big thing, and then since then it's been mostly just through UIs. But the stuff that Ellmer unlocks is pretty awesome. So very cool. All right, do you have any other questions, Derek?
No, I think I'm good, but thank you for the presentation.
All right, yeah. Thank you very much. I'm glad you could step in relatively last minute to give us something interesting to think about. We do have someone on the schedule next month to talk to us about the rotating curation on the Our Ladies account on Blue Sky. So hopefully everyone can join us on the second Saturday of August. And I will see everybody then. Thank you.